Hello everyone. Salvete everyone. Welcome to Cato Reception Through the Ages, a course and a presentation developed by Professor Martin Dinter from King's College. Narration and activities by myself, B.A. Márquez Romo. Salvete. You're about to meet Cato, not as a marble statue in a museum, but as a living argument, picked up, reshaped, and redeployed by writers, politicians, philosophers, and artists from antiquity to recent ages. Under Professor Martin Dinter's guidance, we'll trace how Cato's stoic rigor, political defiance, and uncompromising ethics echo across centuries. I will be your narrator-in-residence and activity designer, helping you transform reception theory into lived, voiced, argued experience. You may be wondering why Cato? Why Cato? Because every era needs a Cato, and every era rewrites him. From Seneca and Lucan to Addison, from the American Revolution to modern political memes. Cato is a lightning rod for debates on liberty, law, virtue, and extremism. Studying his reception shows us how history is never just what happened. It's what later generations needed it to mean. What to expect from this course, Cato's Reception Through the Ages? We're going to have close readings and context through the slides. We'll dive into primary text, ancient and modern, to see how Cato gets framed: hero, obstructionist, martyr, sage. We're gonna craft, learn, and read micro-declamations and voice labs, short high-impact exercises where you will stand up and speak as Cato's defender, detractor, or reinventor. Reception clinics, small group sessions where you dissect a later text, play, poem, speech, meme that uses Cato and explain what's at stake. Comparative media tasks, how Cato travels from epic poetry to enlightenment drama to modern political rhetoric, and what each medium adds or erases. And a final project, craft a persuasive piece, written, recorded, spoken, or multimedia, that repositions Cato for a 21st century audience of your choosing. What's the spirit of our course? We're not here just to admire Cato. We're here to interrogate him through Senecan Stoicism, Addisonian drama, revolutionary republicanism, contemporary ethics. From antiquity to contemporary, expect to argue with classmates, challenge your own assumptions, and yes, practice a kind of declamatory performative engagement that made Roman declamation so unforgettable. What is our mantra of our course? History is a dialogue across time. Reception is the accent we choose. Welcome to the dialogue. Welcome to the accent. Let's begin with Cato's Reception Through the Ages. Okay. In order to warm up our mind, our soul, our oratory skills, let's practice a short walking declamation or seated declamation from the Boca della Verità to the Porta Janus in Rome, where the she-wolf who found you. So, let's ground ourselves, sit comfortably in our chairs. If you need to speak, speak softly. If you need to walk, walk softly. Declaim boldly at the stops. Our mantra, veritas me liberat, planus mi viam aperit, lupa me invenit, or the she-wolf found you. Okay, be comfortable, behind your eyes. If you want, travel to the center of your head. Turn off analyzers, stressors, extreme sound, extreme noise, and let's start to focus on signal. Stand before the great stone face. Place your hand lightly on the cool marble rim. No need to test it unless you dare. Breathe in for 4 or 5 seconds. Feel the weight of every spoken truth. Whisper, veritas loquor, etiam si manus tremit. I speak truth, even if my hand shakes. What is our hook? O Rome, I place my hand in your ancient mouth, and pledge my words will not be hollow echoes but living marrow. May the teeth of truth bite away my cowardice, my lies, and turn them into truth. So let's step out to the small piazza, letting the temple columns in your periphery watch the yours. Our step 2 is a forum boarium between Hercules and Portunus. As you pass around Temple of Hercules and the rectangular Temple of Portunus, you walk where commerce, cattle, and contracts are uncrossed. Inhale with the temple on your left, exhale passing to your right. Here deals were struck and oaths were made. Some hands held on. Some halls hold coins, others daggers. I walk between strength, like Hercules, and safe harbor, like Portunus, choosing the courage to anchor my voice with the learnings of my soul, of Cato, of Roman reclamation. Look back once, the truth is behind you. Now law and trade flank you. Our step 3, Cloaca Maxima Archway, the hidden sewers. Let's approach the little arch where the Cloaca Maxima Rome's ancient sewer meets the Tiber. Beneath your feet, the city refuse float away, unseen. Pause and touch the stone wall. Imagine a portrait, transport yourself with your mind, with your imagination, to this scenery. What I hide rots, what I voices cleans. Rome carried away her field through stone veins. So must I purge falsehood, letting speech rinse my spirit. Purvo voce mea tacit sordes. I cleanse with my voice. The field falls silent. Step number 4. The steps to the Arch of Janus or Porta Janus. I walk toward the Arch of Janus, the quadriforms. Janus looks both ways, forward and back. Pause in the center under the vault where directions meet. Stop a little bit to take a deep breath. Inhale, hold, exhale. 4 times for the god of thresholds, to be here and now at Porta Janus. So ask yourself, with conjectura, what really happened in my past? Definitio. Who am I at this threshold? Qualitas. What path contains the virtue I seek? Legales. What law inner or civic, must I uphold to cross. Speak aloud, Janus befriends, show me the cost of each path. If the past is a tyrant, let my future be the citizen that defies him. If my silence was a crime, let my voice be its atonement. Reflect. Then we go to step number 5, where the she-wolf found you. Here, declare that you are no longer lost. In the myth, the Lupa Capitolina, as you know, rescued abandoned twins. Let her find you now. Raise your gaze north toward the capital's direction. Declare, I was abandoned to doubt, but the she-wolf found me, fierce, nurturing, unashamed. I drink now from the wild source, not from fierce, thin milk. I pass under Janus' arch not as a wanderer, but as a founder of my words, my will, my Rome, my declamations. Nemo me servavit, nobody is going to save me. Therefore I say what I can, my integrity, my voice, my chosen road. Then exhale and step out. The arch becomes your gate, the city your forum. Your declamation is not over when you stop speaking it. Continue in the choices that follow. So, with a deep breath, return to the center of your head, to the back of your eyes, open them, draw, hold them closed, take a deep breath, and be present here and now. It's time to meet Janus. Some activity, short activity, if you want, if you feel, record a 60-second speech at each stop. The truth, the cleansing, the threshold, the claiming. Stitch them into one coherent declamation with a single thesis. For example, true speech is the only doorway to civic courage. Present in an audio, in a video, and post it on LinkedIn. How did walking alter your argument's tone? This welcome meditation. Truth frees me. Janus opens the way. She wolves find me. It's time to meet Cato Catonis. This is B.A. Márquez Romo presenting you this wonderful Cato Reception through the Ages course. Let's begin. Cato is a personal noun of the masculine gender. It is singular and it is declined similarly in the nominative and vocative cases. The declension goes nominative, Cato, genitive, Catonis, dative, Catoni, accusative, Catonem, vocative, O Cato, ablative from Cato. In the plural, nominative, Catones, genitive, Catunum, dative, Catino, Catonibus, accusative, Catones, vocative, Catones, ablative, Catonibus. So as you can see, Cato is a great personal noun of the masculine gender. Try to apply them in your declamation. But which Cato, you may be asking? The popularity of the name Cato does not only derive from its use in grammatical text, the existence of two famous Catos, the older and the younger, who both serve as an example of morality, oratory, contributed to create the myth of Cato, which subsumed both individuals by condensing their virtues into a single figure. This lack of distinction between both Catos is evident from how often they are cited in the plural as Catones, as we have seen, and also from tales which could well correspond to either Cato. You can see the Catones, its compendium of example of morality, oratory, and myth. Picturesque terms which, through ones spoken by Catos and the uses of all, now lie low through unseemly neglect and derogation. New ones he will adopt, which use has fettered and brought forth. So, as we reviewed in our introduction, every era produces Claudiuses, but it's a rare age which brings forth Catos as this Fortis example of morality, oratory, declamation, and all several characteristics that we will be reviewing of these Catones. He would, under no circumstances, have fallen into sin by wishing it, or drowned in sin by committing it, if only he had preferred to imitate Cato instead of Job. But how could he have done this, since he was forced in the temples to adore Jove rather than Cato? Be yourself as Cato, not as Jove, drowned in sin. This course, you will start seeing, is kind of reflectory of several attributes, attitudes, morality, an example that we can have for family, to ourselves, to the city, to our partners. Remember that we are in Sophistopolis, which everything bad, violent, cruel could happen, like the parricide, tyrannicide, the cruel stepmother, the prostitutes, the slaves, etc. So be that, beware that in your mind. Recently we completed a Roman declamation introductory course that I will be posting the links on the comments if you feel interested that we a course where we dived deep into an introduction, history, and different aspects of Roman declamation. One of them is that we are in this Sophistopolis where everything could happen, everything bad, everything good, as life. So this will be also the tone for this course. Remember that this is only for educatory, for learning examples. Let's begin with auctoritas. Try to write your notes with these concepts, because these will be the ideas and concepts that you will be developing on your activities and declamations. Cato's authority as moral leader and a wise man is his defining attribute. His quote from antiquity to the Renaissance because he naturally lends weight to the author's claims. As the following quotes from Livy demonstrate, however, Cato sometimes abused his authority, as much people with high authority and sort of tyranny. He used his influence and extreme, perfect oratorical skills to incite legal action against the Scipi, owing to his long-standing feud with Scipio Africanus, who had not wanted to destroy Carthage. To craft this idea on auctoritas, maybe you can research some its meaning to start crafting into your declamations, your activities that we will be posting on the LinkedIn articles. Beyond all the other witnesses, Marcus Cato was remarkable, whose authority acquired by the uniform tenor of his life. The fact of his being a candidate diminished. We will be posting several excerpts like this from Livy regarding Cato. Marcus Cato was remarkable, whose authority acquired by the uniform tenor of his life. Try to grasp these excerpts, which with ideas that resound, so you can craft your activities. On the death of Africanus, the spirits of his adversaries rose, the first of them being Marcus Porcius Cato, who even during his life had been accustomed to snarl at his greatness. Also an excerpt from Livy. Marcus Cato supported the bill, and a speech of his on the money of King Antiochus is extant, and by his influence deterred the tribunes, the mummy, from further opposing the measure. Excerpts from Livy about Marcus Cato Dietz, who supported the bill, and a speech of his on the money of King Antiochus. Intertwined strands. The reception of Cato is not linear. By late antiquity, writers were aware of other perceptions of Cato, and often incorporated the other strands of reception into their own work. In the following two examples, Aulus Gellius and Ampelius do not only report other characterizations and characteristics of Cato, but even name and critique the original authors, thus engaging intimately with a growing reception tradition. The idea is also to, with all these ideas, start crafting the ideas of Cato to develop a strong point of view on Cato and Catones. When I was still young and a schoolboy, I heard that this Greek sentiment, which I have subjoined, was uttered by the philosopher Musonius, and said it is a true and brilliant saying, expressed briefly and roundly. I very willingly committed it to memory. If you accomplish anything noble with toil, the toil passes, but the noble deed endures. If you do anything shameful with pleasure, the pleasure passes, but the shame endures. Later, I read that same sentiment in the speech of Marcus Cato, which he delivered at Numantia to the knights. Although it is expressed somewhat loosely and diffusely compared with the Greek which I have given, yet, since it is prior in time and more ancient, it ought to seem worthy of greater respect. The words in this picture are as follows. Bear in mind that if through toil you accomplish a good deed, the toil will quickly pass from you. The good deed will not leave you so long as you live. But if through pleasure you do anything dishonorable, the pleasure will quickly pass away. That dishonorable act will remain with you forever. So bear in mind these concepts about a good deed and a pleasure deed, honorable and dishonorable deeds. Remember, it is very important, these concepts in our Sophistopolis. From Ampelius Liber Murialis, Cato the censor, who was himself accused so many times, did not stop prosecuting the wicked as long as he lived. This man was the most skilled in all matters, and as Celestius Crispus thought, the most elegant of all the Romans. So as you can see, we start seeing the scriptures of Cato. Someone who liked good deeds over pleasurable deeds, in which he was elegant with oratory and his presence, as Ampelius Liber. Ampelius said. Okay, so from Cato as auctoritas, we go to Cato as a wise man. We start seeing appear for these principles, values that Cato would hold, said by different authors and excerpts through history and historiography. So let's continue. Wisdom. The following quotes share the common motive of praising Cato for his wisdom. The prototype for this characterization pattern is Cicero, De Amicitia, which states, Cato bore the title of the wise, as a sort of cognomen, Cato the wise. The key ingredient is these portrayals is Cato, all-roundedness. He possessed manifold experience, from late antiquity to the Renaissance. The trope of Cato as a wise man, Cato the wise, remained formulaic. Writers typically introduced one of Cato's witty sententia, or related an anecdote demonstrating his wisdom in action. So here emerge another value, his wiseness and his will to take action with this wisdom. From Cicero. Recently this title was given to Marcus Cato, and we know that Lucius Acilius was called the wise in our father's time, but each of them in a somewhat different way. Acilius because of his reputation for skill in civil law, but Cato because of his manifold experience, and because of the many well-known instances wherein, both in Senate and Forum, he displayed shrewdness of foresight, another value, and ability, resolution of conduct. Sagacity. In reply, and as a result, by the time he had reached old age, he bore the title of Cato the Wise, sort of cognomen. You can see, Cato started gaining different attributes like his authoritas with good deeds or pleasure of good deeds, his elegancy, his wiseness, his wisdom in action, foresight, resolution of conduct, and his sagacity. What Florus said about Cato. Lucius Annus Florus was a Roman historian. He wrote a history of Rome entitled Epitom de Tito Livio Velorum Omnium Annorum, abridgment from Livy of all the wars over 700 years. As part of his account of the Punic Wars, he noted Cato's catchphrase, "Carthage must be destroyed." The context for this utterance is a sensorial debate concerning the impending Third Punic War. The Carthaginians had armed themselves against the Numidians, who were allied to Rome. So now you know a catchphrase from Cato. Carthage must be destroyed. What is your stance against or favor to it? Start thinking in terms in Catonicus ways. Cato, with an insatiable hate, used to affirm that Carthage must be destroyed. As Florus said, even when other subjects were being discussed. But Scipio Nasica said that Carthage should rather be preserved, lest Rome might be corrupted by peace, when the fear of its rival city had been removed. The Senate compromised and decreed only that Carthage should be resettled. What would be your stance? Right, the one from Cato, Carthage must be destroyed, or the one from Scipio Nasica, that Carthage should rather be preserved? What do you think? Start writing your stances, your points of view on these contradictory terms that we will be reviewing throughout this presentation, this course. What did Tertullian say about Cato, who was a Christian writer from Carthage? Despite joining the schismatic Montanist sect, he produced a large corpus of apologetic texts, including the Ad Nationes to the Nations, an invective against the unjust persecution of Christians. In this work, Tertullian criticizes Roman ignorance by relating an anecdote about Cato and the African fig. The tale supports Tertullian's argument that discoverers Cato are not worthy of deification, since they are not comparable to God, the ultimate inventor. What would be your stance? God versus Cato. As Tertullian said, nobody at Rome had ever seen an African green fig. Cato brought one into the Senate in order to demonstrate the proximity of that province, which he had always insisted on conquering. Remember, Carthage must be destroyed. Carthage must be conquered. What does Augustine say about Cato? Augustine was a Christian theologian from the North African province of Hipporeus. In his later years while living as a monk, he produced significant works including the De Doctrina Christiana, in which he retells Cato's witticism on shrewd mice. The context behind this retelling is Augustine's condemnation of human superstition. Cato's witticism is inserted as an example of unsuperstitious behavior at the very end of this passage. What is your stake? What is your stance on superstitious behavior? Remember that we are in Sophistopolis, and magic, superstition, or not, could be allowed beside yourself, by yourself. So Augustine said, hence the elegant saying of Cato, when he was consulted by someone who said what his leather boots had been gnawed by shrew mice, he answered that this was not a natural portent, but that it would truly be a most unnatural sight if shrew mice were gnawed by leather boots. Take notice of this oratory game that Cato mentions. The boots gnawed by the shrew mice, or the shrew mice gnawed by the boots. What does Ennodius said? Who was Magnus Felix Ennodius? A Christian rhetorician and poet. He was elevated to the bishopric of Pavia in 515. In this role he visited Constantinople, twice as an ambassador to the Byzantine Emperor Anastasius I. His best known literary works are his letters, in one of which he compares a colleague named Urbicus to both Cicero and Cato. The context for this quotation is a passage praising Urbicus' outstanding reputation. Remember also reputation, importance of reputation, as questor under Theodoric the Great. So what does Ennodius say? With these words, the most excellent king ordered that the most illustrious Urbicus should be summoned, who, bearing all the burdens of his palace, exceeded Cicero in eloquence, and Cato in fairness. Cato as a fair man. The king ordered Urbicus to promulgate an imperial decree for a general indulgence. So now we have another concept, fairness. What is your stance? What is your take on fairness? Remember the spirit of the law on our Roman Sophistopolis. Okay, so who was Isidore? Was a theologian and grammarian who also served as Bishop of Seville for 36 years. During this period, he wrote a well-known De Differentis Verborum and De Differentis Rerum, both part of his etymologies, in which he uses Catonian fragments to illustrate grammatical points. These fragments are not used in the historical or literary context, but simply as exemplar sentences for Isidore definitions. As you can see, we're presenting different characters, and then we go into the excerpts. Hence the saying of Cato by Isidore, "You, I say, if you suppress the truth, you will be viewed as a deceiver. If you invent falsehoods, you will be seen as a liar." So you can see Cato as a truth teller and seeker, and remember that if you suppress the truth, you will be viewed as a deceiver. So truth suppression or omission is also deceiving. Marcus Cato, also by Isidore, thus distinguished between the words to hasten and to rush by saying, "He hastens well, who completes each task in good time, but he rushes badly, who starts many things at once and does not finish them." Cato as someone who focuses on one task and completes them good, not someone who starts many things at once and does not complete them. So the idea here is to hasten and completing the tasks in good time. Cato, also by Isidore, Cato on his innocence. When I was a legate in the provinces, a great many men gave wine as tribute to the praetors and consuls, which I never accepted, even as a private citizen. Here Cato is proving his point on innocence, or to be willing to not accept any bribe or tribute in order to change his actions or thoughts when he was legate in the provinces. So Cato as innocent and not bribable figure. So what Roger Bacon? Who was Roger Bacon and what he said about Cato? Roger Bacon was a scholar and a Franciscan friar from Somerset. In accordance with the instructions of Pope Clement V, he produced the Opus Maius, or his greater work, in which he retells an anecdote about Cato as part of a discussion on contumelia or insult, and how it should be viewed as a positive experience, which produces humility in the soul. Cato's nonplus reaction to being physically assaulted, and therefore insulted, is held up as a historical example of his attitude. Cato's nonplus reaction to being physically assaulted or insulted. So, maybe Cato as an example of emotional balance. The example of Cato is what Roger Bacon said when he was struck in the face. He was not incensed, he did not avenge the injury, and he did not even pass over it, but instead denied that it had ever happened. He was more magnanimous in not recognizing the deed than if he had forgiven it. For who does not know that nothing which is thought to be either bad or good, remember that bad or good ideas about Cato, seems so to the wise as it does to all of us. Remember Cato as a wise man, Cato as a doer of good deeds. So let's continue with Antonio Bonfini, who was an Italian humanist who served as a court historian of Hungary. He wrote a symposium, De Virginitatis et Pudicitia Conjugali, Dialogue on Virginity and Conjugal Chastity, for the Queen of Hungary, Beatrice of Aragon, in which he relates Cato's statement on lovers. The specific context for this quote is a discussion on all-encompassing nature of lust. Bonfini employs Cato's statement to support his argument that reason always yields to arousal. For lovers, as Cato said, live in another body, banishing their minds far from themselves. Remember when people are in love, he said that they live in another body, just banishing their minds and just living with emotions and passion in the moment. Cato saw that. Okay. So, as you can see, we have started to grasp some ideas from different authors throughout the ages, the autoritas, the good deeds, pleasurable deeds, the elegance, the wiseness, the wisdom in action, the foresight, the resolution of conduct, the sagacity. Carthage must be destroyed. God, Cato, as creators, superstitious behavior, reputation, Cato as fairness, Cato as a truth teller and seeker, Cato focusing one activity rather than several, Cato as innocent or not bribable, and thoughts of Cato about love. So let's stop here. Let's on this first part so you can grasp ideas, start crafting your declamations, which will be posted on the activity section on the LinkedIn post. So for the next session, part 2, we will be continuing with Cato as a moral leader and reviewing several authors and their sayings about Cato. Do you think he was moral? Moral? What is your guess? Take a guess. So thank you. This was part 1 on our Cato Reception through the Ages. It was lecturer B.A. Márquez Romo, the course by the great Professor Martin Dinter, which introduced me to all the concepts on Cato, Roman declamation, cultural memory of Augustus, which we will be reviewing in further courses, etc. You feel interested in these kind of topics? Do you want to develop your oratory, declamatory skills? Send me a message. I will be very glad to assist. It's in English because all the content that I have in these topics, declamation, Cato, Calpurnius Flaccus, Introduction to Roman Declamation, is on English. So thank you and see you soon in the part of Cato as a moral leader. Good.